Hi, my name is Dr. Ellen Storm from U-Turn Health, and today I'd like to talk to you about calcium on a high raw vegan diet. And the reason I want to do that is because I've been asked this question. This has come up as an issue with a family that I'm working with at the moment. And when I looked at the various pieces of advice that are being given out around sources of calcium for plant-based diets, particularly whole food plant-based diets, vegan diets, they keep saying the same thing. They keep saying that the best ways to get calcium on a plant-based diet are tofu, calcium set tofu, so it's made with calcium sulfate, fortified products like Ready Brek, fortified plant milks, beans, whole grains, legumes, and dark green leafy vegetables like kale. So all of these things are things that in some way or other can be included in a high raw vegan diet, but they do not form the bulk of the calories. The bulk of your calories on a high raw vegan diet, particularly a low fat high raw vegan diet, they're going to come from fruit. And there aren't many fruits that are generally said to be high in calcium. Figs are one, and they come up when I looked at the Vegan Society, I looked at Viva Health, and I also looked at Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. So they mention dried figs, but of course the drying process doesn't add calcium to the figs. So fresh figs have as much calcium as the dried figs do. So figs are one that are generally known to have calcium. I've also heard that oranges are quite high in calcium, but relatively speaking, the levels of calcium in these in fruit is going to be low compared to in other products, particularly in fortified products. So if you're keen to avoid fortified products and you want to get all of your calcium from natural foods, tahini, Brazil nuts, so tahini, sesame seeds, Brazil nuts, tofu if you eat cooked legumes, beans, legumes, so beans and peas, really, lentils, all these things, they do contain calcium, and if you eat enough of them and you eat a wide variety of those foods, then you're going to be getting enough calcium. So one might conclude from this that we need to be eating these things in order to be healthy and have strong bones, and therefore a fruit-based diet, a diet where we get most of our calories from fruit, or even some people who do eat only fruit, this is not going to be healthy. This is not going to sustain us. Our bones are going to be, calcium depleted and brittle, and we're just going to crumble and fall apart. That's clearly not the case. It's not the experience of people who are eating this way. And certainly my own experience, I'm not 100% fruitarian. I eat a high fruit diet, but I don't eat only fruit, so I do eat all of those other things. My personal experience is that when I eat a high raw diet, my nails are really hard and really sharp, and I start to injure myself. My hair looks great, it looks shiny and healthy. My skin looks shiny and healthy. And I find it difficult to believe that a diet that's going to cause these parts of my body, or all the external parts that you can see, to be shiny, healthy, hard, and generally in good condition, is going to cause my bones to crumble. I do find that difficult, and that says to me that there might be something slightly wrong with the way that we're thinking about this and the way that we think about calcium. Now, certainly for me, when I first started my vegan journey back in 2004, I read the China study sometime in the few years after that. I think it came out around then. So that's T. Colin Campbell, and he, in the China study, showed a graph by Hegsted. I think it was from about 1985, and that showed that the incidence of hip fracture at a national level increases with increased intake of calcium. Now, that's a really interesting thing. It was a thing for me at the time. It kind of completely threw me. It made me do a real U-turn, excuse the pun, and start to think about how I was thinking and why the things I might be being taught were not right. At the time, I was studying for a MSc in public health, and I was doing a module in diet-related chronic diseases. And I was, up until I became vegan, was eating a diet really high in dairy and all my life, but particularly since I became nominally vegetarian, little bit of fish here and there, but I called myself vegetarian from the age of 8, because what I did was I replaced the meat that I was eating with dairy, and that's a disaster as I understand things now. That's possibly, for your health, the worst kind of diet you can possibly have, where you just switch, and instead of having meat, you just put tons and tons of cheese. For me, it was cheddar cheese, loads and loads of it everywhere. You have, you know, cheese sandwiches and loads of cheese on your spaghetti, and that's a terrible diet. It's really high in fat, really high in saturated fat, really high in cholesterol. So don't recommend that at all, but it is often part of people's journey towards becoming plant-based initially, usually cooked plant-based first, maybe trying out some of the vegan products, some of the junk food, and then moving towards whole food plant-based. That's part of the journey that individuals follow, but also that we're following as a society at the moment. So as a society at the moment, we are at the sort of whole food plant-based stage. So with vegan is becoming a big thing, and there's a lot of vegan junk food coming out, but there's also the people who are saying, well, hang on a minute, we're really talking about whole food plant-based, we're talking about eating plants, but cooking is still most people are not really questioning that. So for me, it's been so startling. Over the last 10 years, I have been increasingly high raw, or perhaps it's more fair to say a bit up and down, really. So I started my raw journey in February 2014, so coming up to 10 years now. And every time I've gone round a sort of cycle of eating more cooked food, always vegan. I've been vegan now consistently since 2012, January 2012, but a couple of years before that as well, it was a bit more on and off. I was vegan for 2 years, then I wasn't, then I was. The usual pattern of trying something out and seeing how it works. So I have gone through that up and down, cooked raw, quite a lot of times now. And every time I do it, I'm so startled by the difference that it makes to me and my personal health. It's just absolute night and day. It's a completely life-changing experience when you get to it. So you get through all of the withdrawal, detox, whatever you like to call it. You get all of the stuff that you need to get out of your system, and then you start to feel amazing. And so what we don't have at the moment is we don't have any science around the raw vegan diet and bone health or calcium intake. We don't have very much science around raw vegan diets at all. There is a little bit, but not an awful lot. And so when we start to think about how we know what we know about food, with raw, we are getting into difficult territory there, because it is in some ways experimental. I can't sit here and say to you, well, yes, absolutely, there's this scientific evidence that says this is how it is. But I certainly have met so many people now who have had absolutely phenomenal experiences of turning their health around. And over the last 5 years, I've been attending the UK Fruit Festival, which is a high fruitarian, raw vegan festival that happens once a year in the UK. And I've met lots of people there who would testify that this is the case. If you do it correctly, if you do it right, if you get enough calories, if you get enough variety, and really the main issue is is because it is a low calorie density diet, you are needing to eat a huge volume of food compared to what you would eat normally on a cooked vegan or standard Western diet. So getting used to that, getting used to the amount of fibre, your body takes some time to adjust to it, and there are some kind of adjustment related symptoms which we can talk about another day. You do have to get through those before you start to see a real difference. For me personally, I would say that it takes about 2 weeks. That's a long time. It's a really long time to go on trust and to believe that you are going to get there. You know, when you have the terrible headache, when you're feeling a bit lightheaded, dizzy, exhausted, whatever it is that you're having, maybe you're having some bloating, some wind, some digestive issues as well. There's various ways in which the body tells you, hang on a minute, you know, something's changing, and all that stuff is coming out, new stuff is going in. There's a period of time it takes to adapt. We started with calcium, and I went, after I'd looked at these sites that I mentioned earlier, I then went and looked up frugivore on Wikipedia. I was quite curious about this because I wanted to know how many animals are there that eat only fruit. Came up with some kind of a wolf that eats about 50% fruit, which I thought was quite interesting. I don't know what that wolf is, if it's even a wolf, but anyway, that I think from South America. But there are certainly primates that do, and that get most of their calories from fruit. We are primates as well, and we have a body plan that works really well on fruit. You know, we have hands that are just perfect for picking it, and teeth that are perfect for eating it. So we don't have canines, we don't have huge claws. We have a body plan that is designed to eat fruit. And these animals that eat fruit, these monkeys and apes, there was a picture of an orangutan. They don't only eat fruit, but they get most of their calories from fruit, plus some green leaves, shoots, bit of insects, probably a bit of dirt. That's where they get their B12 from. So these animals are not crumbling away. What I think we have to remember here is that all of these animals, and we are animals, we have an animal body as well, they are able to make all of the tissues of their body from a fairly limited range of foodstuffs. Most of them will just be getting what they can get in the wild, which isn't likely to be as much as we can get in Tesco. So they can convert that. They have the ability to do it, and so do we. We don't believe it anymore. We live in a world where we are riddled in the West with osteoporosis. People's bones are just crumbling away. There's a reason for that, but it isn't eating too much fruit. The reason is that some of the acidic proteins in animal products cause calcium to be leached from the bones. It's to do with acid-base buffering, and we pee out the calcium if we're eating that kind of diet. So we actually get rid of the calcium that we take in, and then that goes into our bones, and then actually we lose it. So calcium balance, understanding calcium balance, is really crucial, because it's not just about how much calcium we take in, it's about how much we pee out as well. And when our bodies are working efficiently, we may not need to take in anything like as much as we would if we're peeing out a lot. So the recommended amounts of calcium are generally for people who are eating a standard Western cooked food diet, and they're not for people who are eating a raw vegan diet. We simply don't know what the calcium requirement of someone eating a 100% raw vegan diet is. We don't know how much they pee out in their wee, so we can't say that. We can only go by what we see in ourselves. And this is where I think that a form of embodied knowledge comes into play here, where we're not just talking about, yes, we have this scientific evidence to make this change. We're learning about how our bodies feel, and we're trusting that. We're trusting our bodies. We're trusting that when we make a change, and we do it for a few weeks maybe, and we see benefits, we see them in the visible parts of our body, like our hair, skin, nails, teeth, eyes, whatever. We see benefits in our digestion, or maybe our joints feel a bit looser. When we are doing that, we have an embodied knowledge. Once you acquire that embodied knowledge, that sense of, do you know, I just feel amazing when I do this, and then people can't come along anymore and say, do you know what, I think your bones are going to crumble, I don't think you're going to have good bones, you're going to get osteoporosis, you're not eating enough calcium. So then we can't believe that so much anymore once we've had that experience. And what happens for a lot of people once they try the raw vegan diet is they have such an incredible experience of benefit that they start to just question all of the science, the whole thing. It doesn't so much mean anything anymore. And I think that's happened for me. It's been the subject of the book that I'm writing. I'm trying to finish the editing of, but it's more or less written, so hopefully that's going to be out maybe in the next year or so. But it is a big job, and really starting to think about this question of how do we know what we know. When we make a diet change, we need to look at what effect it is having on our own body on a moment-to-moment, day-by-day basis. People get put off by the withdrawal symptoms, by the detox symptoms, by the transition symptoms. Do have to persist a little bit beyond that. But I would really strongly recommend that you do consider trying it. It needs to be done at a time when you can go through it, and that's hard. That's what I'm here for. That's what U-Turn Health is here for. It is to help you to tell the difference between what is a symptom of detox, a symptom of withdrawal from all of the horrendously addictive things that are in our cooked food diet, all the fat, salt, sugar, etc. Caffeine, if you're addicted to that as well. You may have quite a wide range of things that you need to come off in order to be able to thrive on a raw vegan diet, in order to be able to sustain it. So that's really hard. That's what I'm here for. If you think that that's something that would be good for you, then please do get in touch. In the meantime, don't worry too much about calcium, but eat some figs, some tahini, some Brazil nuts if you're including nuts in your diet, some kale, that's always good. Put it in green smoothies. You can make kale chips out of it. Lots and lots of green vegetables. I think if we're eating lots and lots of greens, personally, for me, I include loads of greens in my diet, and that makes me feel a lot better than if I just eat pure fruit. Perhaps it's just taste. I don't know for sure, because I've personally never eaten a 100% fruit diet, so I don't have that personal experience. But for me, it works. It makes sense. The minerals are in the greens. Get the greens in. There are lots of really creative ways of working with fruit and greens together, so that you get so that it makes both of them palatable. For me, when I eat fruit and greens together, I like putting sort of mango on a salad, or I eat grapes and rocket quite a lot, which I like. You just kind of get the grapes and the rocket and eat it. So there are lots of different ways. Green smoothies, bananas, spinach, water. Simple green smoothie works really well. And I will put an entire packet of spinach in with about maybe 4 to 6 bananas and some distilled water, and that's my green smoothie for the day. And then I know that I've got a really good amount of greens into my body. So there's lots of creative ways of doing it, and I wish you well. Enjoy. Come and talk to me if you would like to. Thank you. Bye.